You may have seen Tony the Ant in a movie. His character, his likeness, or his demeanor. Well, that is because he is the inspiration behind Martin Scorsese's movie Casino. The movie Casino is particularly famous for featuring a lot of violence. In the movie, Robert De Niro plays a Jewish gangster who manages casinos in Las Vegas for the Chicago outfit, and Joe Pesci plays Nicky Santoro, a brutal mobster who protects him. Indeed, Anthony Spilotro's unusual thirst for violence would not only cement his reputation as one of the most feared mobsters in the 1960s and 1970s, but also foretell his own terrible demise. Becoming Tony the Ant. Tony the Ant was born Anthony John Spilotro on May 19, 1938, in a very rough part of Chicago. He must have had it really hard being one of 6 boys: Vincent, Victor, Patrick, Johnny, and Michael. Pasquale and Antoinette Spilotro, his parents, were Italian immigrants who owned Patsy's restaurant. Young Anthony initially became familiar with organized crime through his family's company. Patsy's was a popular mafia hangout, and meetings between men were routinely conducted in the restaurant's parking lot. Before long, Spilotro and his brothers were already involved in illicit acts such as stealing and pocketbook snatching. Spilotro grew up to be a local bully with a reputation for fighting, and he won his fights. In 1954, his father died, leaving his mother to raise their 6 sons. He dropped out of Steinmetz High School as a sophomore that year and spent most of his time doing small crimes. He was arrested for the first time at the age of 16 for attempting to steal a shirt, for which he received a small fine and was placed on probation. Spilotro's illicit activities continued unabated after his imprisonment, and by his early 20s, he had been arrested many times. Spilotro began setting his sights on Chicago's most powerful criminal family. His sights were also set on Nancy Stewart, a petite local waitress who worked in a local mafia hangout, and in 1960 he married her, into the Chicago underworld. Spilotro quickly became friends with influential members of the Chicago underworld to reach his goals. Notable ones were Joseph "Joey the Clown" Lombardo, Vincent the Saint Insero, and mafia leader Joseph "Joey Doves" Aiupa. Spilotro joined Mad Sam DeStefano's team that same year. DeStefano's violent and cruel character was greatly sought after by his supervisors as a tool to spread fear and horror, but he was deemed too unpredictable and undisciplined to ever be considered for true leadership. Even the police were wary of him, and for an already violent Spilotro, he was a mentor and a stepping stone. The legend of the Ant begins. Spilotro ultimately got a contract to kill Billy McCarthy and Jimmy Miraglia, 2 24-year-old robbers known as the M&M Boys, thanks to DeStefano's help. The victims had slain 2 robbers in Elmwood Park, an area deemed off-limits by the Chicago mob, often known as the Outfit, since it was home to numerous crime lords. Spilotro tormented the guys before murdering them to convey a message about the invasion of their space. McCarthy's head was put in a vice until the victim's eye came out, in a notorious interrogation tactic to force McCarthy to divulge the whereabouts of Miraglia. Later that year, officials discovered their maggot-covered bodies in the trunk of a vehicle on Chicago's South Side, and the case was nicknamed the M&M Murders. Spilotro's ruthless assassinations gained him notoriety among local mobsters, earning him the title of Maid in 1963. He also got a position supervising the bookkeeping area on Chicago's Northwest Side with his new title. Spilotro's size drew the attention of local police officials and the media, who began referring to him as the Ant because of his 5'2" height. The pigs want the Ant. Following the M&M murder, Spilotro became a wanted man, and federal agents sought tirelessly to apprehend him. Charles "Chucky" Grimaldi, a former member of DeStefano's group, was turned into a federal witness by the FBI in November 1963. During the murder trial of Leo Foreman, a debt collector who had made the mistake of kicking DeStefano out of his office, Grimaldi testified against Spilotro and DeStefano. Foreman was invited to DeStefano's brother Mario's house to play cards and inspect a recently built bomb bunker. Spilotro and Grimaldi carried Foreman down the cellar, where DeStefano battered him with a hammer before stabbing him repeatedly with an ice pick. He was then shot in the head and dumped in the trunk of a car that had been abandoned. In 1969, Spilotro was accused of conducting a bookmaking ring in an abandoned basement by the police department's vice, thus they raided it. Spilotro and his companions attempted to destroy the evidence by stalling the cops at the door while eating the paper bets. However, he was caught when more evidence was discovered in his office. He was penalized again and again, but did not serve any time. Spilotro, however, determined it was time to leave town because of the heat. Viva Las Vegas! Spilotro's reputation as an earner and enforcer grew across the syndicate, and by 1971, Aiupa had chosen him to succeed Marshal Caifano as the mob's agent in Las Vegas, Nevada. Spilotro worked on the Chicago executives' conspiracy to steal revenues from regional casinos in his new position. Using a frontman as the casino's owner, the mob then installed a new mobster in the courtrooms, Frank "Lefty" Rosenthal. Rosenthal's mission was to get entrance to the rooms and withdraw as much cash as possible before it was recorded as income. He was fantastic at it. The funds were subsequently returned to the Chicago outfit and other mafia factions. Spilotro was employed to keep a check on Rosenthal and the other members of the outfit to protect the skimmed assets, make way for the gold rush. Spilotro first required all criminals to pay a street fee to continue conducting business. They were threatened with death if they did not pay. In 1976, Spilotro partnered with his brother Michael and one of his lieutenants, Herbert "Fat Herbie" Blitzstein, to launch the Gold Rush, a jewelry and electronics store. Both stolen and legal commodities were sold at the Gold Rush. Spilotro had to be cautious about what he bought in the store. He avoided selling goods that had been stolen in Las Vegas for fear of the rightful owner seeing them. He also had a reasonable suspicion that the FBI had bugged the business, so he needed to be cautious while making phone calls. Spilotro's crew of burglars made their home at the Gold Rush. From there, they would break into hotel rooms, rich mansions, and high-end boutiques and rob. The goods they took were subsequently fenced by the group. The group obtained whatever they desired by any means necessary. They'd drill a hole in the wall or ceiling if they couldn't locate an easy route into their target building or business. Sherwin "Jerry" Lissner, one of Spilotro's colleagues, was arrested for theft by the FBI in 1979. Spilotro received information that Lissner planned to appear before a federal grand jury and wanted to make a deal. Spilotro devised a plan to remove Lissner and collaborated with mob enforcer Frank Culotta to assassinate him, which Culotta carried out, believing the move to have been sanctioned by the Chicago leaders. By December of that year, the police had increased their pressure on Spilotro, and the Nevada Gaming Commission had formally banned him. Spilotro was legally forbidden from accessing any of the state's casinos, the very ones he was responsible for overseeing. Spilotro had become a loose cannon by the end of the 1970s, conducting a loan sharking enterprise out of a casino, fencing stolen jewelry, and ordering the murder of Lissner without the outfit's permission. He had also become involved with Rosenthal's wife, Jerry, and the two were having a less-than-secret affair, an offense which was not permitted by the mob. However, none of this stopped Spilotro from going about his work. The hole-in-the-wall gang consisted of Officer Joe Blasco of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and mafia associates Frank Culotta, Leo Gardino, Ernest Davino, Sal Romano, Lawrence Newman, Wayne Matecki, and Samuel and Joseph Cusimano. The end of the Sugar Trail. The mob was not thrilled with the amount of attention Spilotro was attracting. The casino blacklisting and the situation with Jerry Rosenthal caused the outfit a lot of problems. Spilotro had 2 strikes against him in the eyes of the mob leaders, and his third would arrive in due time. The Hole-in-the-Wall gang planned a massive heist of Bertha's Gifts and Home Furnishings for the night of July 4, 1981, with a profit of at least $1 million in mind. Police surrounded the store after the gang broke through the roof and arrested Culotta, Blasco, Gardino, Davino, Newman, and Matecki. They were charged with burglary, conspiracy to commit burglary, attempted grand theft, and possession of burglary tools. Spilotro was nowhere to be found, but he was hunted out soon enough and jailed 2 weeks later. Why was the operation a bust? Well, Sal Romano, the alarm system expert of the group, had defected following an earlier arrest, and Culotta turned state witness when he found out Spilotro had put a bounty on his head. But as you may have guessed, the evidence against Spilotro was again insufficient, and he was acquitted. But he was soon indicted again, this time for the casino skimming ring with his Chicago friends. The Chicago syndicate executives were furious by this point. Spilotro, they believed, had created a big spectacle of himself in Vegas, exposing their schemes and costing them millions. Spilotro had to leave, they determined. According to subsequent evidence, the Spilotro brothers were summoned to a conference in Chicago, expecting that Michael Spilotro would rise to prominence. On June 14, 1986, the brothers were assaulted and asphyxiated before being buried in a cornfield in Enos, Indiana, as part of a hit involving almost a dozen other mobsters. A farmer uncovered their bones not far from a farm once held by Joseph Iupa. Few mobsters exist as terrifying as the Ant. Know any fiercer ones? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe, as more exciting videos are on the way.